Those doubters, those cynics out there try to tell us what's appropriate or not appropriate, or what is possible or not possible, what is crazy and foolish versus what is the sanest thing we've ever done, because we know our heart is telling us this is the sanest, most joyous thing we've ever done. For instance, I mentioned that this love of my life is this much younger woman, and society casts a cynical eye on these kinds of May-December relationships. I have to listen to my heart and override what these rational, prudent, cynical naysayers' voices out there are trying to dictate to me and to us. And in her case, when she came out here, when she moved here a few months ago, her family told her, this is a crazy, impetuous move you're making. She came here with virtually no planning, no money, no car, no job, nothing. She was starting from scratch here, which seems crazy. And I guess the naysayers are having their due right now, because this is part of what has forced her to return there, at least for the time being, to take care of some loose ends in her life that maybe she should have taken care of. When we listen to our heart, we do impetuous things. We act spontaneously. We don't calculate everything out to the nth degree. And just because sometimes when we follow our amour dream, when we pursue this discipline of celebration, and sometimes we take this great risk in search of the extraordinary reward, and sometimes we will fall flat on our face. And this always gives those naysayers the opportunity to say, oh, I told you so. You never should have taken that outrageous risk. And again, our discipline requires us to override those voices and those doubting voices within ourselves, because it's necessary to take great risks sometimes in pursuit of an extraordinary reward. And if you never fail, you're not taking enough risks. You're listening too much to that prudent, rational voice that always has a reason to say no. There are always reasons to say no. Oh, stand pat. Settle for what you have. Maybe it's not that great, but if you take a risk, maybe you'll lose everything. Think it over a little more. Delay that crazy thing you're thinking. Sleep on it. Sleep on it for a month or two. But what we know from that lesson of Jesus at the healing pool of Bethesda, with that crippled man who had been there for 38 years waiting to be healed, he kept waiting and waiting, and he was unwilling to act boldly enough to be the first one in that healing pool and receive the healing power when the Holy Spirit stirred those waters. Sometimes we don't have time to think it over and to calculate every possible eventuality and the risk-reward analysis and plug all that information into a computer. Acting spontaneously and sometimes impetuously in the eyes of the community is, for the shaman discipline, our way of using that source authority, that Holy Spirit, that amour authority that's gushing through our heart, using that authority boldly, rolling the dice, and leaving the outcome in the hands of the source. Sometimes we'll get an extraordinary reward, and sometimes we'll be forced to retreat and lick our wounds and come back to fight another day. But it's always worth listening to the heart rather than listening to that voice of the naysayer, that voice of doubt, that voice of delay. That's the discipline of celebration, the discipline of yes, rather than a voice that will always find reasons to say no.